I was going through some of Father Jerry's notes that he left for me, of how things run and everything like that. And as I was going through, I noticed in the daily Mass routine, he said a brief homily. Sorry. You're not getting those. As I was looking through the readings for today, especially the Gospel, I was looking back and said, wow, we skipped a bunch of things. Yesterday, of course, we heard of the call of Simon Peter and the miraculous catch of fish. And then it skips over a couple things. We skip over healing of a paralytic. And then also, we just before this, immediately following today, or preceding today's Gospel, is where Jesus calls Levi, which we understand to be Matthew. They had multiple names in those times. And he goes to Matthew's house for a meal. Now, I'm not sure exactly why the makers of the lectionary chose to skip over those. Maybe it was they said, well, you got those stories in Matthew and Mark throughout the year. We don't need to repeat them so we can get to some of the more unique Lucan stuff. I don't know. But so the context of today's gospel is the Pharisees and scribes are talking about fasting. They're at Levi's house or Matthew's house. They're having this party. Jesus is eating with tax collectors and with sinners, and he's eating with them, and they're saying, how can you do this? And then they say, well, then how come they fast and we fast, but you guys aren't fasting? So we've got this whole context, and it makes sense why this question is coming up. Jesus asked this question, can you make the wedding guests fast while the bridegroom is with them? Now, he's trying to lead the scribes and Pharisees into an understanding of who he is. The natural question then would be, so are you some sort of bridegroom? But they don't ask that, or at least it's not mentioned that they ask that. And if they had asked that, are you some sort of bridegroom? Jesus said, yes. Now you're starting to understand who I am. I just got back from vacation, my wonderful time at the beach with my parents. However, before I left on vacation, I had a wedding that I had to do at my last parish. So I went back for that. And then in the middle of my vacation, I had to leave to go back for another wedding for someone who been one of my kids. It wasn't actually at my parish, but she also became a staff member and all these things. And so I had 2 weddings over the course of the last 2 weeks. Now, you have to understand, in Pelham, if I had 2 weddings in a year, that was a lot. It's not like this place is a destination place. People didn't come to Pelham to get married. So I had these 2 weddings in the last 2 weeks. One of the things I love about weddings, what happens when the bride walks in, everybody turns and looks at the bride. I do something different. I mean, I look at the bride too, but I look at the groom. I look at the groom. Now, I had a lot of time to look at the groom at the wedding this past Saturday, because this past Saturday, we all walked out, the mothers got seated, and then we waited for 15 minutes. I guess a couple of the kids had some issues. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but we waited 15 minutes before the bridesmaids and the bride finally walked in. But so, when I saw the groom standing there and he sees his bride walk in, the tears start flowing. I'm pretty sure, though I didn't get a chance to ask him, it wasn't because he was saying, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this. Why can't I get out of this? But rather, his heart is moved as he sees his bride come in. I was at a retreat last fall. Incidentally, I'm going to part 2. It's a 3-part retreat. Part 2 of the retreat is at the end of September, so I'll be gone for another few days. You just can't keep me around. I got to run around from here. But at this retreat, I remember the retreat master saying to us priests, he said, the groom changes when the bride enters. When you enter as bride, the face of Jesus, the bridegroom, changes. When we enter as the bride of Christ, when we come into prayer, when we come to Mass, when we come to adoration, the face of Jesus changes. Have you thought about the delight that Jesus has when we come as his bride to spend time with him? That as we come forward to receive the bridegroom in the Eucharist, his eyes fill with tears of joy that he gets to unite with our hearts, with our souls. He is the bridegroom. And we as church, even you guys out there and myself, we are the bride. The anima, the soul, is feminine in the Latin, because we are bride to Christ. Do we think about Jesus having that incredible delight? What I saw in these last two weddings, in the bridegroom as they saw their brides walk in, that's nothing. That's nothing compared to what Jesus experiences when he sees us come for prayer, for adoration, which we'll have at the end of Mass, to Eucharist, to Mass. You know, we celebrate this First Friday in the Sacred Heart of Jesus, where his heart loves so much and is so little loved. And this love is a call to reparation to his heart. That we celebrate First Fridays as a way of bringing reparation, repairing the wounds of especially indifference to the heart of Christ. And when we come with love to prayer, to Mass, to adoration, he says, "Oh, I am so delighted that you came to be with me, to unite yourself to me." May we keep our eyes fixed on the face of the bridegroom so that we can see the delight in his eyes when we enter.